Good morning. It is the 29th of June, 2024. Hope you're all doing well. Um, I have one goal today, and that is to install those bushings on the support plate that sits underneath the air conditioning compressor. It's a pretty lengthy process, a lot of work involved, but that's why I'm starting in the morning. I don't know if I'll have any energy left after completing that task. If I do, I might take that right rear wheel off and look closer at the brakes. I don't know yet. Um, to continue the discussion about my clock, um, it stopped running after 2 hours last night, so I took it out this morning, and it's now in the mail, priority mail to Denver, to uh, Main Street Classic American Car Clocks, I think it is. I know I mess that name up all the time, but anyway, he's going to repair it for free. I sent him my original clock as well, so he can use the face, which is a lot nicer than the one he sent me. He agreed to do that as well. So hopefully I'll have that back in a week or two, and we'll see how this day goes. So here's my planned approach. First thing I will do, without the car being on ramps to start with, is I'm going to remove the fan shroud along with the fan. I'll loosen and remove the pulley here, the idler pulley for the fan belt or the drive belt. And I'll take that belt loose. And then I'll see how much room I have. I might be able to do all the work from up top here. If I remove all this stuff out of the way, I might not have to get it up on the ramps. I'm just going to have to see. I may or may not have to loosen these bracket bolts here and this bracket in order to be able to move the support bracket that the compressor is sitting on top of. I'll loosen whatever I need to loosen to get enough play to do what I have to do. I do have to completely disconnect that support bracket down there. I believe the bracket is held in place by two studs, which is why I've got to get this stuff out of the way so I can access those the nuts on there and get them off. I have to take them off completely, the nuts, so I can then pull the bracket, slide the bracket off that way, and then get my shims in place. My intention, oh yeah, there was something else I wanted to look at, I forgot. I actually was going to loosen up these bolts here and that bracket too, and then put the bolts on underneath the compressor, then see how far back this was and kind of use that as my thickness attempt as far as how many washers I should attempt to do this with. It's either going to be two or it might be all three that I got. So I'll have to play all that by ear. We'll see how it goes. All right, progress report time. As you can see, the fan and the shroud are gone. I also had to take the heat shield off out of the way to get to the bolts for the fan, so that's all out of the way. I have the power steering reservoir is completely loose, and one of the bolts, there's actually three. There's a bolt and two studs that hold that support bracket on. That's why I had to take loose the power steering reservoir. I'm hoping there's enough movement that'll fold out of the way without actually having to disconnect the lines and get it out of there completely. Save a little bit of work. But the reason I decided to do an update at this particular juncture is because I just embarrassed myself again, thinking back to the time I had the engine in my mechanic's shop last year, November of last year, I think it was. I just found, when I took off the nut in the middle attachment point, one of the studs, this is not a washer, this is a spacer, and it was on the wrong side of the bracket. I don't know if you can really see that too well. Where that spacer should have gone is right there where you see that obvious gap. That's where that spacer should have gone that's in my hand. Instead, I had it on the outside, just beneath the lock nut here, not in the right place at all. So it's like, okay, well, there you go. Turns out there was a spacer there before. I just didn't put it together correctly in the first place. So I feel good about doing this, but also silly that I didn't have that together correctly when I had the engine out, and it would have been so easy to get this right. So anyway, I'm making good progress. I'm continuing on now. All right, next step. I have the bracket completely loose now. I don't know if you can really see down there very well or not. The bracket is completely slid forward. You can see it kind of sticking out. I guess you really can't see it too well. Anyway, the the bracket is easily moved, and I think I'll be able to slide it off that stud without having to disconnect the lines in the power steering reservoir, which I'm very grateful for. My plan at this point is to put a couple of the bolts, maybe 3, underneath the compressor through the bracket once I've pulled that bracket off first and put the shims in there, then push it back on and see if I can get the bolts in there without having to loosen these, because that's keeping it kind of aligned right now as far as the pulleys go and everything. So that's my attempt that I'm going to try right now. Alright, this is how it's looking right now. I decided to go with, it's a little blurry there. I decided to go with the 3 washers since they're all the same thickness. My reasoning there is that the bracket, oh, you know what I just realized? That must be why there's a spacer there. I'm talking to myself, sorry. It looks like the bracket, that L-shaped bracket, actually sticks forward a little bit compared to where the engine block actually starts, where it connects. I didn't realize that's probably why they had that spacer in there in the first place. So my idea of keeping the thickness the same on both of these studs looks like that's not quite right. So let me make some more adjustments here. Alright, progress report. It does appear that the only thing I really had to do was put the original bushing back in place right down there. I know it may look blurry in this view, but that bushing that was out of place looks like it lines everything up perfectly with no additional shims or washers or anything. I still got this. It's loose now, but this bracket is still attached to the head. I have 2 of the bolts underneath the compressor started now through the bracket. So, and everything looks like it's still lined up pretty well. I will put the idler pulley back on there too, just to double check before I tighten anything else down. But so far so good. Looks like I didn't need any washers at all. I just needed to reposition the bushing or the shim that was already here and put it on the correct side of the bracket. Tell you what, sure wish I'd known all this before I put the engine in the car. But at least I'm making progress. Alright, next progress report. Things are looking really good. I now have all the brackets reinstalled. Everything is tight. There are 3 bolts underneath the compressor locking it down to the plate that it sits on. I lost the 4th bolt. I could have gotten it in there, but I don't know what happened to it. I think I lost it on the drive to Baltimore a couple of weeks ago, because I did have 2 in there loosely, so that was kind of dumb on my part, but I tend to do stuff like that. But anyway, the important thing is I have everything in place. Everything is locked in place, and these are still where they're supposed to be. This bracket here, I will put that bolt back in it when I'm ready to. I just got through checking the alignment of the belt here, and everything is beautiful. So now this baby is really tight like it should be. I'm hopeful that that might actually quiet things down. We'll see if that gets rid of that kind of that roaring sound I was hearing. Something else I realized too, now I know what this little thing was. It was actually a brace for the muffler, because there's a place underneath here. It's hard to see, but it's down here where my finger is, that this was directly attached to, and you can see how it's broken off here. I couldn't figure out what the heck this thing was for, so I kept looking around, just seeing how this is sitting here, and I finally realized it actually is supposed to be attached to the muffler, and I guess it just provides, I don't know what it does actually, some kind of support that obviously is not there anymore, so I'm not going to bother putting this back on. I'll just tighten that bolt on the side there back down and keep going. I'm now to the point where I can finish assembling everything back together. Alright, I'm done. I've got the engine back together, got everything back together, everything is tight, my belt is nice and tight. One thing I didn't think about checking while I was in there with no fan in the way is checking the tightness of the alternator belts. They're a little bit loose, they could be a little tighter, but not that bad. I mean, I can do that from underneath the car. It's not the end of the world. But everything is back together. I'm just really, really pleased now. But in the end, all it took was moving a single bushing from the wrong side of the bracket to the correct side of the bracket to put a space between the block and the bracket. That lined everything up. That's all I really did. I have 3 of the 4 bolts underneath the compressor locked in now. I lost one, but 3 out of 4 ain't bad. So I'm going to start her up, make sure she's looking okay under the hood, and then I will take her for a test drive, because I'm real curious if that noise is gone with the compressor running when accelerating, that kind of thing. I noticed one of my lifters has started making a little noise again. Not overly concerned about it, but it quiets down once it's warmed up. I'll turn on the air conditioning. Okay, she's running, looking good. And it cools off in a hurry. I like that. Doing what she's supposed to do. My tape is supposed to show up today to wrap that expansion valve back up and that whole line there. Oh yeah, it's nice and cool in here. Yeah, I like it. Oh, that's interesting. My fan speed is the same, low and high. Huh. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Just happy it's working. This is a voice-over of my closing video because for some odd reason the sound did not record using my AirPods. So anyway, I came back from a test drive with the air conditioning running and also with it off, and I didn't notice any difference in sound at all. I think what I'm mostly hearing is just road noise from having the windows up, not used to driving it that way. So I guess it must have worked, locking down the air conditioning compressor to the brackets, especially the supporting bracket underneath. Seems to have quieted it down, so I'm real happy about that. The only thing that I have left to do really is replace that anti-icing switch when it comes in, and then I still need to wrap the cold lines with that special condensation tape. It should be here later today, but I wanted to wrap up this video anyway. So I had fun today. I'm glad this is done, and you guys have a good day. Take care.